Hello and welcome back to Jules Math Tools. In our session today, this is part 2 on converting a decimal number in the hundredths place into a degree. Now, in our first video, we showed you how to convert this decimal numbers or decimal numbers in the hundredths position into a degree by just multiplying. However, in this session, we're going to be taking a different approach. So if you're ready, let's get started. So we're going to begin by separating this number into two parts. And for those of you who are familiar with my videos, you've seen me do a step like this before with our decimal numbers or with even the mixed fractions where we broke them into two parts, remembering that 1 added to 0.75 is pretty much another way that you can write 1 and 75 hundredths. So we're going to be multiplying each of these separate parts by our 360 degrees. So we have 360 degrees being multiplied by 1, which will equal to 360 degrees. So my 1 is equal to 360 degrees. And now we're going to be taking our 360 degrees and multiplying that by 75 hundredths. So 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. We put our 0, carry the 3. 5 times 3 is 15. And 15 plus 3 is 18. We'll add in our 0 and begin multiplying by our 7. So 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 6 is 42. We'll put our 2, carry the 4. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 4 is 25. So we're going to add in 2 zeros and multiply by our 0. And we know that in our 0 times table, everything times 0 is equal to 0. So I'm going to just put in my 3 zeros for my 0, my 6, and my 3. Now let's sum our numbers together. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 2 is 10. And 10 plus 0 is 10. We put our 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And 2 plus 5 is 7. And 2 plus 0 is 2. Now we're going to go back. Remembering we have to input our decimal point. So in my first number, there are 0 digits behind the decimal point. In my second number, there are 2 digits behind the decimal point. So in total, we're going to have 2 digits behind our decimal point. So we count 1, 2, and input our decimal point. So my 75 hundredths in degrees is 270 degrees. So now that we have our 360 degrees, we have our 270 degrees. We're going to sum these two amounts together. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 7 is 13. We put our 3, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So my 1 and 75 hundredths in degrees is 630 degrees. Now remember that whenever you have these numbers that are larger than one whole, because we have one whole and then 75 or 0.75 hundredths, remember that the 1 alone means that we have one full revolution, which is 360 degrees. So that means that our 360 degrees will be added to another degrees, which will equal to our complete degrees for this 1 and 75 hundredths. So remember that anytime you have a decimal number or even a fraction or any number that you are converting into a degree, remember that once you have more than one whole, you should be expecting to get a degree that is larger than your 360 degrees. So please keep that in mind. So let's try our second example. And we have, in this example, we have 5 and 3 hundredths. And again, we're going to break this number into two separate parts. So I'm separating my whole and my decimal number. And again, we're going to multiply both of these parts by 360 degrees. So that means that for my 5, I should be getting 5 full revolution amount. So 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. So we put our 0, carry the 3. 5 times 3 is 18. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 will give us 18. So my 5 is equal to 1800 degrees, which will be added to my 360 times my 300ths. So 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 6 is 18, we put our 8, carry the 1, and 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 will equal to 10. Now, for this step, I know you've probably seen me do it in a few of my other videos where we didn't go through the entire multiplication. I won't do that here as well, because remember that once I multiply by 0, anything that I multiply by 0 is still going to be 0. So that means that regardless of how many zeros I add in my second and my third row, my numbers will still come back to the same set of numbers that we have in our first line where we multiply by our 3. So if you need to go through the multiplication, by all means, again, we're all here working at different pace. Go through the multiplications with your zeros if it makes you comfortable. If you are at that pace where you understand the steps and the multiplication with 0 and it's still going to be 0, then feel free not to continue on. But remember that regardless of whether you choose to multiply on or not, we're still going to arrive at the exact same answer. So now we're going to be inputting our decimal point. So in our first number, we have no digits behind the decimal point. In my second number, we have 2 digits behind the decimal point. So in total, we're going to have 2 digits behind the decimal point. So we're going to count 1, 2, and 8 point my decimal point. Okay, so my second number is going to be 10, and now you can say 10 and 8 tenths or 80 hundredths. Remember that it's still the same set of numbers. So whichever one you choose to use is quite fine. Okay, so now let's sum our numbers together. So we have 1800 and we have 10 and 80 hundredths. I'm going to put in my decimal point here and add in my zeros just to help with my placeholder, and in case you may be maybe a little bit rusty on adding decimal numbers and whole numbers, so at least this will help you out with that as well. So let's sum. So we have 0 plus 0 is 0, a plus 0 is a, 0 plus 0 is 0, 1 plus 0 is 1, and we're going to bring down our 8 and our 1. And remember that that decimal point drops right down the middle. We don't move that, we just bring it right down from where it is. So my 5 and 3 hundredths in degrees is 1810 and 8 tenths degrees. Okay, so there you have it. We just converted 2 of our decimal numbers when we have whole numbers involved into degrees. So remember that you can check your answer by applying the same steps that we did in part 1, where we just took the entire number and multiplied it to 360 degrees. You can do that in this case to check your answer and see if it's correct. And remember, you can still practice different numbers to help enhance your skills. That's the only way we're going to get better in enhancing our math skills, by just practicing and expanding and developing our skills. And so when you're ready, remember that you can always return back to Jules Math Tools, where we make math easy.